book review. Some of you may know my husband, Rick Goff. He has participated a few times. And I do know Mark Wittig, and he has told me about this before. And for those of you who may have been on the discussion that we had last month on race in 2020, I was one of the panel members. So I'm glad to be here this morning, and I'm good to see you all. Sorry I'm not camera ready this morning, but I'm here.
Great. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, good morning. My name is Karina Salazar. I am actually a Wittig's employee, and we were invited by Mark.
All right. Well, welcome, Karina. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi. Hi. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with little ones in the background, so I've got my camera off. This is Jennifer Cook with the San Antonio Area Foundation. I've attended executive book review before when I was employed at Good Samaritan Community Services, but it's been a while since I've been involved, and this is my first time attending virtually.
Great. Well, welcome, Jennifer. Good to have you with us. Anyone else? All righty.
Hi, I'm Julia Bates.
Hi, Julia.
How are you?
Good.
I haven't. I used to attend quite a bit when it was in the store, but haven't attended since COVID happened. I have a company called Mellowbee. It's a meditation cushion and a posture cushion for the office chair. And I'm just happy to be here, and I really am interested in the topic. So, thank you.
Terrific. Welcome, Julia. Nice to see you. All right. One last round. Anyone else here for the very first time? Well, let's go ahead and start with our program, and welcome to our.
Hello.
Yes, hello, Christy.
Hi. I don't know if y'all heard me earlier, but I was saying that my name is Christy Metcalf. I'm with Wittig's Office Interiors. This is my first time attending executive book review.
Great, Christy. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so welcome to our first Friday executive book review. We're excited to have you with us today. Our purpose is to connect lifelong learners, and we do this through our three-legged stool, which is learning from the presenter, learning from each other, and having an opportunity to meet fellow lifelong learners. And so we have a lot of fellow lifelong learners here today. Today we have John Knotts, who is going to be presenting his book selection, which is Mr. Shmooze. John is a personal, professional business coach. He's also a veteran, 21 years with the U.S. Air Force. So thank you for your service, John. He's a writer, a speaker, a golfer, and he and his wife also own an equestrian event destination, which also serves as a veteran equitherapy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big word for 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But he's a well-rounded, very interesting individual. We've had him a number of times present on his books, and we're very excited to welcome John Knotts presenting Mr. Shmooze. John?
All right. Hey, so welcome out. This is event number 269 for the Executive Book Review. And this will be our 147th book that we've reviewed over the past 7 years for Executive Book Review. And you probably can tell I'm a little excited. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I had my coffee, I'm ready to go, because this book is really exciting. Today, we're going to cover one of my personal favorites. It's called Mr. Shmooze. Get our slides working here. And okay, so why did I pick this book? This is really important, I think, for us as presenters to really share with you, why did we choose this? So I was actually in this group and I was talking to a number of other professionals, and we were doing this kickoff for a meeting. And the question for that kickoff, that little, check-in that we were doing was, what's one book that you would recommend to everybody? So people are going around and they're giving their different books and everything. And we get to this one guy and he said, I normally only recommend the Bible. But then he said that this was one of the best books he had ever read. Also, he recommended the audiobook. And I will have to say that I absolutely concur. So I got the book and I got it in audio, just like he recommended. And there were points where, like, I would drive up to the office and I wouldn't leave the car. I would let it continue to play because it was so good. So it was just like, you'll really feel the energy from this book when you listen to it in audio. It's a great book, but I definitely recommend it in audio. So this book is written by a guy named Richard Abraham. He's a coach and advisor for sales, and he's a professional speaker. But the really cool thing is he lives right up the road in Austin, Texas. I tried like heck to be able to get him to come out here, but unfortunately I couldn't get hold of him. I guess I wasn't a good enough salesperson, but I love to meet the guy, because if he's anything like this Mr. Shmooze that I read about, he's going to be an incredible person. So we like to, in EBR, share, what do we see as the presenter, what the book's one thing is. So every book, we pull that from the book. And the one thing from Mr. Shmooze that I saw that stood out after reading it several times is that the cool thing about Mr. Shmooze is that everyone in this review attending today will find fantastic nuggets of wisdom that you can apply in your everyday lives. Now, I know this is a sales book, but there's just so much more to it. And I just know that understanding the lessons within it, that you'll be able to apply that. Speaking of application, I've highlighted here and in the handout, which you should be able to get to in the chat if you haven't already downloaded it, the possible applications depending on who you are. And I'll call specific attention to the application for everyone. This book is only 95 pages. It's really thin. And it is full of so many aha moments that it's absolutely amazing. When I first listened to the audiobook, I remember not even wanting to go into the office. I would just sit there in the parking lot, mesmerized by the story, and be like, oh, I got to hear what's going on in the next chapter. You don't normally get that from a business book. See, that's normally something you'd find in a fictional book. So the book itself, I've already mentioned that its length and that the audio version is the best. So I'm not really going to go into that too much. But Mr. Shmooze is a story. And I particularly like the stories. Even some of the books that I've written are kind of story focused. So this book really doesn't have like a lesson section. Like maybe if you're used to Patrick Lencioni and he always has the parable, the fable, and then he has a lesson section. Well, this book doesn't do that. You actually have to derive the message from the story. So the story is told from the perspective of Mr. Shmooze's summer intern, a guy named Robert Richards. In the book, Mr. Shmooze often refers to him as Kid. Mr. Shmooze is a marketing and sales consultant, and he's based out of Atlanta, Georgia. The story actually starts and ends at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Atlanta. And it's all about Richard's summer internship with Mr. Shmooze. So let me read the first chapter. And I mean, this is like literally on the first page of the book. Running toward the door, I happened to glance into Mr. Shmooze's office and noticed something peculiar. Whereas everybody else's desks were covered with in and out boxes, neat and not so neat piles of important looking documents, and computers with impressive looking screensavers, Mr. Shmooze's office was different. While by no means neat or organized, paper was replaced by books and magazines, boxes of cigars, and pictures from golf outings and ball games. The pictures all had one thing in common. Everybody was smiling and hugging and laughing. So now that I've read that, you in the audience, what is your impression of Mr. Shmooze from this paragraph? Let me know.
Personable,
Personable?
fun loving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fun-loving people person.
That's the marketing guy.
What else?
Observant.
Observant. Well, obviously, Robert Richards is observant, right? What do you think about Mr. Shmooze when you hear that? What do you think it's setting you up for in this book?
And he's a lifelong learner. He reads.
Yeah, he reads a lot.
And I think you can connect to him. He introduces Mr. Shmooze in a way that immediately, if you don't connect with him, you can connect another friend or family member with him.
Oh, yeah. So connection.
Yeah, relatable.
Relatable. There's some. So this book is all about the science of selling through relationships. And really, this paragraph, this very simple paragraph, really kind of sets the stage for what Robert Richards is going to face for the rest of the summer. It's quite an amazing impact here. So this lesson is broken down into, for me, 6 lessons, but in fact, it's actually 10 chapters. However, as I read this book several times, these are the 6 key points that just jump out in me. So, living with positive energy, using numbers and facts, engaging a network, focusing on features versus benefits, exuding passion, and being a sales-focused entrepreneur. Now, I'm going to share, because there's no real lesson in this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to share, and we're going to discuss some of the quotes from throughout the book that formulated my thoughts. So let's explore these lessons together. So let's start with Mr. Shmooze on living with positive energy. You can see I'm pretty energetic about this because he is full of energy. Everything about him just exudes energy. He doesn't just live life. He lives it. He energizes everyone around him. He's larger than life. I mean, just larger than life. You're going to read about him. You'll be like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. But his actions are totally repeatable by anyone. So somebody read me those 2 highlighted quotes, or the 3 highlighted quotes in blue on the screen or in your handout.
First one's, it's important whether you're socializing or selling to paint a spectacular picture for someone, to get the adrenaline flowing, and to ignite their imagination.
What's the next one?
Laughter opens minds. Make them laugh.
Okay. Somebody read me that last one that's highlighted.
Keep
Keep
knocking.
knocking on the good vibe door. Soon enough, the guard dog inside will step aside and let you in.
Oh my God. So what do those mean? Like, did I start this with energy? Would you say so?
Yeah.
I mean,
You did.
I'm fired up about this. I want you to be fired up about it. And that's like the first thing here is you paint that spectacular picture and you get them excited about what you're doing. If you're always happy and positive and forward thinking, people around you, they're going to do it. I was just in a Toastmasters meeting on Wednesday, and we had a presentation from one of the Toastmasters giving one of her speeches on the importance of laughter and how powerful it is. It was such an incredible speech. I was like, you have to send me that speech, because I want all of the facts and figures that she pointed out in there. And we all know that laughter is like one of the best medicines. But that last quote, keep knocking on the good vibe door. Soon enough, the guard dog inside will step aside and let you in. What does that mean? What does it mean to you?
That's what goes on between your ears. You know, if you're going to listen to all the negative stuff, let the negative thing get you down, then you'll always be down. So you have to figure out how to be positive in your own mind in order to, you know, drive you.
And as a salesperson, they're always trying to get through to people. And you know, when you are in sales, there's this tendency that, oh, well, I don't want to talk to you because you're going to try to sell me something. So really, it's about being positive and constantly being positive and upbeat and open, so that people will let that guard down, and they will let you in and allow you to develop the relationship, which is so important. So two things in this living with positive energy that became like patently obvious in this book, and it greatly supported Mr. Shmooze's capability, is one, he has this assistant, Mary, and he calls her all the time throughout the book. He'll get it done with a meeting, and he's like picking up the phone and rattling off these things in her voicemail to do. So like Mary is a godsend to him, because she is helping him live the life that he needs to live. And the second thing, although they only talk about it one time in the book, where he's actually working on his customer relationship management system, it's clear that this guy leverages some kind of a system that really keeps all of the information, because there's no way that Mr. Shmooze could possibly keep all the information in his head that he has, that he just spouts off in this book. And the things that he does and how he follows up are just amazing. So those things, although they don't talk about it in the book and they don't really highlight it, although he does call Mary, and you do know that he uses a CRM, these things are like super important to how he gets his job done. So let's talk about Mr. Shmooze on numbers and facts. I love this because I'm a numbers and facts kind of guy, but Mr. Shmooze is adamant throughout the book on being very precise with numbers and facts. His insistence is because of how memorable someone can be while others aren't. So can somebody read that top quote?
Most people speak in generalities. Numbers, if accurate, are not only more hard hitting, they're also 10 times more memorable than words.
Awesome. What about that next one? Somebody read that.
Be able to clearly and quickly explain how your products and services will benefit the buyer personally in memorable, graphic, and provable terms.
Yeah, so this is really important when he talks to the different people in his consulting activities, and even when he talks to Robert Richards, is talking about the importance of the specifics and not generalities. And there is constant times where he is advising people and talking to them where he brings this up to the forefront in many different ways. So when it comes to numbers and facts, this is clearly a really important lesson in the book. Now, obviously, he probably has a really good network. I mean, he's a salesperson. So when I talk about Mr. Shmooze on engaging a network, what I found interesting is that Mr. Shmooze actually doesn't necessarily see himself as a great networker. He tells Robert Richards this in the book. To Mr. Shmooze, it's not about the quantity of the connections that he has, but the quality of the relationships that he builds, and also the importance of the value he provides to his network. So Can somebody read the top quote?
These are my friends. This is my family, my team. We're all on the planet together. Right now, working, struggling, laughing, crying every day. I love these people and I want them to know it every time.
Ooh, that's pretty powerful, isn't it? All right, the next one. Do not touch.
Do
Or
more
do
than
more.
touch people. Add value to their day-to-day lives. Always give more than you get.
Oh, law of reciprocity right there. Always give more than you get. That's content marketing. That's living in a relationship world. What about that bottom one?
Good relationships are very rare, very precious. Once you have one, your top priority must be to nurture, grow, and protect it with your life.
So we have a master networker on the call right now. His name is Mark Wittig. Mark, what's your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on those quotes?
Well, I like they seem genuine. It's not phony. That you really do care about people. And I called a gentleman yesterday who's probably 80 something, his birthday, and I got the feeling I might have been the only one that called him. It gave me pleasure to give him pleasure just that he was remembered. So it's that simple and meaningful.
Yeah, that's and Mark, you probably don't really consider yourself to be a master networker, right? You probably kind of like Mr. Shmooze here.
I don't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was that's just when Richards and Mr. Shmooze are talking, and Robert Richards tells him, he's like, you're a master networker, and he's like, no, I'm not. And like, what? No, you're absolutely wrong. And then he goes on to explain why. But these quotes are embedded throughout the book. It's not just in one little section. All these things and his messages and what he says, super, super powerful about the importance of engaging a network. And this is one thing that I actually created out of the book. It's not in there, but Mr. Shmooze is talking to Robert Richards. And at this point in the book, he explains how he determines who is most important in his network. The book doesn't show this, but I created it based off his description. So basically, he focuses more on what he calls good relationships. You heard that in the quote. Those in the green on this chart, upper right quadrant of the chart, those are the people that would be considered his good relationships. So what are your thoughts when you see this chart?
To me, it just seems like the stronger your relationships are, the better it's going to impact your business in a positive way.
Okay, so strength. So we got the upper part, but somebody could be really strong relationship, but they have no ability to impact. So it's a great friend that does nothing for what you're trying to do for your business. So there's like two aspects to this is what's called a Boston Square. And when he talked about it, he talked about the strength of his relationship versus the ability for them to impact his business. And when those things were both high, then those were the people that he really focused his emphasis on. But I'll tell you, Mr. Shmooze, he is focusing on everybody, and he understands the power that people have on what he does. Even at the hotel, which he frequents a lot, has a lot of meetings at breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, dinner meetings, drinks, whatever. You can tell that he has figured out the people that are key players at that hotel and the restaurant. So from the person that parks cars to the person that waits or seats people to the bartender, he knows things about them and he does things for them because they're doing things for him. They help him do everything that he is trying to do in this book. So you've probably heard this before. When Mr. Shmooze talks about features and benefits. He's clearly emphasizing for salespeople to move away from simply describing those features of their products and services and more to the benefits of those products and services. So somebody read the top quote.
Buyer cares only about the benefit to him personally.
Yeah. So they don't care about what you think about it. They care about what they think about it, what it's going to do for them. What about that middle one?
Replace your presentation with a conversation.
Oof, okay. So he's talking about PowerPoint. And PowerPoint, although it can be powerful because everybody wants the eye candy, there's a lot of people that learn through imagery. The idea is that we are creating a conversation around the slides and not living to the slides. We don't focus on that. What about that bottom quote? Somebody read it.
People would rather look at pictures of their own kids than your kids. This is about your customer, not you.
Oh, does that resonate with you, Nancy?
Yes, it does.
Super powerful. Like, oh, here, let me show you my kids. Well, let me show you my kids. Yeah, that's really about it. It's about them. It's not about you. And Mark talked about that. You know, he called somebody on his birthday and he's like, I might have been the only person that did that. Hopefully that's not true, Mark, but I mean, that is so important for us that we're doing that. And why was Mark able to do that? Because he knew when that guy's birthday was. So it's things like that in this book that I constantly saw. I'm like, how the heck does he know that? Because Mark, Mr. Shmooze, they keep really good records of things like that, things that are important to them, not to him. Now, Mark said, yeah, it made him feel good, but it made him feel good making that person feel good. And that's really what's important here. So if you can't tell that I've learned anything from this, this is my favorite message from the book. It's Mr. Shmooze on exuding passion. So Mr. Shmooze is constantly highlighting how everything that you do must exude your passion, whether you're presenting your products or services or just having a simple event, having some people over for drinks. Everything should be examined and prepared for. And it's what he calls, in order to elevate, you hear this in the book, elevate the experience. So I'm going to read these two quotes, and I'm going to really focus on the first one. Elevate, elevate, elevate. Everything, every person, every time. You will become successful beyond your elevated dreams. And the second one is you'll have 60 seconds to make a first impression that lasts a lifetime. So when we kicked this thing off, I was like, it's all energy, right? I want to be positive. I want you excited about this book. I want you excited about the lessons. But the idea here, and I took from this book, I took the lessons that how can I elevate this presentation for you and make sure that you understand the importance of that kind of concept. So what things can I do to make this even more impressionable? And there's actually a whole chapter that really kind of focuses on this concept of elevation when he's explaining it to a bunch of salespeople about one specific person that they could sell to and how they could create an environment, an activity, and elevate that and keep on elevating that to make it so memorable. The thing is, throughout the entire book, you see he does this all the time. This is like second nature to him. So powerful. Now, this one is Mr. Shmooze on being a sales-focused entrepreneur. This is probably the most specific lesson and the last lesson that I would share out here. In chapter 5 and 9 of the book, there's some very specific messages for business and sales leaders. In chapter 5, Mr. Shmooze meets with a successful entrepreneur and client. His name is Irving. And then in chapter 9, Mr. Shmooze is presenting to sales managers at a conference. So somebody in the audience that owns their own business, read that very bottom quote.
Dig deep and decide what your real goals are. Match the caliber of your salespeople with those goals. Do not attempt to match them to your own skill level.
So this was such a powerful statement, and working with business owners, CEOs, presidents, I see this a lot. An entrepreneur will build up their business and they're all in. They're sometimes more than all in their business. And then they bring in some salespeople. And those salespeople aren't them. But what they do is they try to get them to match their fire, their passion, their energy. And he's like, no, you can't do that. They're not going to be you. You need to set goals and make sure that the people that you bring in are focused on meeting those goals and not trying to be you, because you own the company. You're not them. And it's so powerful. And I know that probably salespeople are stuck in this quandary of, you've got this leader that was a really great salesperson and they were able to sell ice to Eskimos, and they struggle to be able to meet the expectations of this entrepreneur. So these are really powerful messages that were very specific in the book. So to sum this presentation up, I want you to always end on a high note, leave a positive impression, and elicit a positive emotion. None of us can all be Mr. Shmooze. I get it. But we all can apply some of Mr. Shmooze's magic every day in our work and in our lives. So we started off and we talked about this. This is our three-legged stool. We learn from the presenter who has read the book several times. We learn from each other. So our experiences, our understandings, what we think about the things that we're sharing in the book. You don't have to read the book. That's the beauty of this. It's a book review, not a book club. And lastly, we want to meet other lifelong learners. So in the handout, I've highlighted 3 ways that I plan to apply what I've learned from this book. What we're going to do now is that Peter is going to put us all onto kind of an extended breakout here. And I want everyone in their group to share their thoughts on my 6 lessons from this book and ways that you might apply this knowledge in your life, business, and community. And along the way, get to meet the people in your room and get to know them. So Peter, go ahead and take it away.
All right, I think we are ready. So here we go. And then there were 37. We're back. Wow. So let's see. Where is our presenter? There he is. Can't find him. All right,
Right
John.
here.
Bring us back to reality.
All right. So do we have some really good discussion in there?
Awesome.
Everybody put their hands up. Like, yeah, it was fun. Did you get to meet some people? That's what we're all about, right? Meeting people, learning more about them. Jennifer's got her hand up like that. Robin's blowing, she's celebrating over there. So that's what Meet Lifelong Learners are all about, is that we are connecting, and as Pat likes to say, that hopefully you take this conversation outside of this and you go, man, I'd really like to get to know you more and understand, like what you do and how you live, what you like, and really practice what's in this book to get to know people. Because everybody that's in this room, you're powerful people. You're curious. You want to learn. And that sets people apart when you want to do that. So I hope you enjoyed Mr.
Hey, John.
Shmooze. And yes, Pat.
Yeah, I might just make a quick little comment from our group discussion. We were talking about how we help the staff in places that are so important, like hotels and so forth. Those people work behind the scenes, and we sometimes don't engage. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm only talking about myself. I sometimes carry the thought in my mind, I'll be nice to you when I feel better. Because right now I'm in a bad mood and I don't feel like being nice to you. Maybe that can be reversed and I could start thinking, I will feel a whole lot better if I be nice to you. You just have to do it.
Hey, Pat, I know that you're heading to Baja this weekend and you're going to be there at MEA for 2 weeks. I'm going to tell you, I am sure that they have read this book because they elevate everything that you've told me. They elevate that experience over and over again. So it might be a really great opportunity for you to read this while you're there. All right, Peter. Thanks everybody for coming out and learning a little bit about Mr. Shmooze, and I'm going to turn it back over to Peter.
Might help
Peter,
if I
you're muted.
muted myself. Let's give him a big round of applause. Awesome job, John, as always. Hopefully everyone has taken away something and has that 1 or 2 action items, because it's in activating the things that we learn that we really exponentially make a difference to ourselves and to other people. So let's talk briefly about what's coming up. And then I have one request for everybody before we take off. On February 10th, which is next Wednesday, we're doing our wine and cheese. It's bring your own wine, bring your own cheese, etc. So bring your favorite drink and let us know what it is. We have Marissa Ortiz, who is one of our fantastic speakers, who is going to be presenting a book called Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. And it is an opportunity to figure out, live with meaning and connection, connecting empathetically with others to enjoy more satisfying relationships, how to share our resources so everyone is able to benefit. It's going to be a really incredible evening. It starts at 5:30 next Wednesday. We also have a special event coming up on February 18th. And so I'd like Mark to give us a very brief overview of what to expect for that, because it's really an incredible evening that we have in store for everybody.
Thank you, Peter. Many of us know of Lionel Sosa, kind of a legend in San Antonio. And last year, about a week after the death of George Floyd, he was taking a walk on the east side, and in some small mom and pop business was a sign that says, you can't be anti-racism unless you're actively anti-racism. And that gave him pause. And serendipity, an hour and a half later, he's in front of 2 accomplished Black men, and he shares this haunting message. And one of them says, well, let me tell you what it's like to live in my skin. And from that, Lionel decided to do 33 portraits of Black men from 10 years old to 90, from a 4-star general to a homeless, and on and on. And in the process of doing that, he says, that's not enough. I says, I got to interview these people. And so he put together a program. It's called Living in My Skin. And on the 18th, Lionel will have 5 of the men that he interviewed and did portraits of, and they will tell a little bit about living in their skin, and we'll have some breakout sessions. And if you've never had a person of a different race tell you what it's like to live in their skin, this is an opportunity to have that. I think it'll be very moving and meaningful to all of us. Thank you, Peter.
So that is again on February 18th, and that will be from 6 to 8 o'clock. So that's Thursday, which is a special one that we're doing for this month. So really encourage you to share that with your friends, and we hope to see you at that one.
Hey, Peter, can I ask it? Will that come out on an email for registration?
It already has.
Has
The
it?
first
Okay.
email came out yesterday or the day before.
Okay.
And we'll be sending another one out. So there'll be a couple of invites for that.
You
It
can
is
also go
on
to the
our
website.
Yeah. So we've been working on a lot of changes with Executive Book Review. And in order to implement all of these things, we need feedback. And since we have a couple minutes left, what I'd encourage you to do for just about 1 or 2 minutes is to put in chat what your thoughts were on how the meeting went today, what was the highlight, what worked well, and what did you like, what would you like us to continue and do, and what is one improvement that you can think of that we could use at Executive Book Review to make things better. So if you can just take a minute to put something in chat on that, that would be extremely helpful to us and help us to continue to raise the bar and elevate what we do here at Executive Book Review and build that enthusiasm that John has given us and take us to the next level as a group of lifelong learners. Okay, there is a question as to how long does this go? Officially, we go till 9:30, but we have been trying to condense these since these are Zoom meetings. So we get closer to an hour and 15 minutes now on our sessions. So we should be done here in a few minutes. But that also gives those who are eager to share a little bit more with lifelong learners an opportunity to hang around as we have our after party event. So
that's where we hand out all the virtual breakfast tacos.
Low calorie too then, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. Fat free.
So thanks for putting your comments in. There's still time, so you can add a few more as you go on. So before we finish, is there anybody who has any comments, anything that was a real aha from today, from John's presentation? So kind of open the mics for just a couple of minutes before we break officially.
Also, Peter, if there's anybody that was new that we didn't catch.
Okay, yes, we had, let's see, Carol and Karina and Jennifer, Julia, Christy, they all introduced themselves. Is there anyone else here who is here for the first time at Executive Book Review that we did not catch?
Okay.
Any comments, ahas?
I want to make a quick comment. John, thank you so much for your presentation. This was an excellent book. I'm Juan Mata. I'm with Wittigs. I'm the sales director, and our principal, David Smedley's on board. You actually had the entire Wittigs sales team on today, so hopefully this will kind of get us in a projection for next year into building some fantastic relationships with our partners. So thank you so much for doing this for us.
Juan, had you ever read this book before?
I hadn't, and I'm about to buy it on Amazon.
Get it in Audible. I'm going to tell you
Yes.
that. How about any other salespeople out there?
You know, I think especially now, starting my own little business, is about being a sales focused entrepreneur, and replacing presentations with conversation. That was kind of something that stuck out with me. Uh, and also nurturing the accounts that you have, that's very important. So it was a great book, and I'm glad I joined this morning. So great job, John.
Awesome. Anybody else out there willing to share?
I
How
think
about
just,
somebody? Go ahead, Denise.
sorry, changing the general perspective of, like, at least that's what our group took away from it, is that schmoozing isn't a negative connotation. It can be really positive, and I think typically a lot of people view it that way, and that's kind of how I sometimes viewed it for myself personally, that I would be so open and talking to everyone, and I didn't know if that came off as being insincere or not, trying to create that happy vibe for everyone else. And the book was really nice to hear that it's not that.
We want you to be happy. Any like non-salespeople out there, like, maybe Robin's an educator.
I just said I have to go to another meeting, but I'll say something fast. So sorry. Anyway, they'll understand. Yeah, I mentioned that in the group, that I'm not a salesperson, and yet, and kudos to all of you who are, because my husband is. Man, the stories he shares. Whew. Anyway, as an educator, though, I still use some of these, right? I still work with my kiddos in a way that I am sharing things passionately with them, making those connections with them. I say kiddos, but now I teach adults. And so I work with the adults that I work with. I have to make those connections with them and guide them in that same way, so that once they're in the classroom, they're making those connections with others in their classrooms. And to some extent, we are selling ourselves, are selling a product of education to the parents that are involved in our classrooms. I never looked at it as sales, and yet it is. We're having those parents come in for parent conferences. We're reaching out to parents to share what's going on with their children's lives. And truthfully, we do have to use some of these same points along the way of connecting, listening to them, being passionate in a way that they understand, and not just my passion about education. I have to find a way to engage every single parent in a different way.
Awesome. So there's a passage in this book right for your husband. So they talked about, and when he's doing war whoops with sales managers, and he's doing a presentation to sales managers, and he's asking for what are the right qualities for a salesperson, and somebody in the crowd yelled optimist, and he's like, right on. And he asked why that is important, and then some lady said, because salespeople face rejection every day. And it's like, you have to be optimistic to be in sales. You have to be positive. You have to be focused on the good, because you're going to get a lot of no's, and when you're asking for stuff, and that's like one of the key things. And you don't have to be an optimist. Optimism can be generated. You can create that in people. But that was super powerful, and I remember it as you said that. I was like, and it's one of the quotes that's actually in the handout.
Very important, very important. And that goes right along with one of the lessons that you mentioned, living with that positive energy. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's not just for sales, that's for any of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to me, that was kind of key, is that, whether you think you're in sales or you think you're not, you always want to be positive anyway, right? And so that kind of, starts out with what you're putting in your head, what's between your ears, based on what you take in, and I mean, there's a saying in the sales world, and not that I'm some big sales guy, but I mean, you're either selling or you're being sold. So even if you're just positive and selling a positive attitude, that's going to help somebody's life. And in the end, you're going to measure your wealth based on how much you've impacted other people and other people's lives. You never know who needs the positive message when you run into them. And sometimes you trying to give out the positivity, it kind of just comes back to you. That's what's kind of happens in our world. And if you're in that world, you've seen it in this year when we haven't been able to be around a lot of people all the time to get that instant chemistry and feedback. So one of the things you want to do is, if you've got something negative that is in your little world, then figure out how to make that the positive. Maybe you count your no's and you celebrate your first 10 no's, or your goal is to get out there and get the first no. Or, maybe you change your metric and you figure out that, you got to get through 10 no's to get a yes. Well, how much does every no then add value to getting closer to that yes? So there's a lot of ways to do it, but it really starts out with where you're at, what you put in your head, and what you think about, because you can lose a lot of time, sweating the negative stuff and the impact negatively of stuff, instead of focusing on the positive stuff that comes out of, what you're doing day to day, where you're putting your time. If you're putting your time in the wrong place, then maybe you change that a little bit, but you got to be kind of positive about it. I tell you, and that's why I love this group. I'm a lifelong learner. I went back to college every 3 years. I've got 3 master's degrees and an MBA, and I'm terrible about sitting by myself and picking up a book and reading it, even though we know that's a secret to success. So I love what this group does for me. I don't remember how I stumbled into it, but I'm glad that I did. And I love what I get out of this because it's another place where I get those positive vibes that carry me forward, even if it's just an hour, a few hours, a half a day, or a whole week sometimes. So thanks to the crowd for putting this together for us all the time.
Awesome. So David, I'm going to take that cut from the video and I'm going to use it in our PR program. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
That was a great testimonial. Pat?
What about you, Pat?
Yeah, for some of us, this is a self-management challenge. I'm talking to myself. As I said a minute ago, sometimes I don't feel like doing this stuff you're talking about, and I let my feelings control me because I'm an introvert. I'm way off the scales as an introvert, and I enjoy being inside my head. And I think that sometimes the best conversations I have are with myself. And so I get all caught up inside my own thoughts. And this was painfully brought home to me when I was with Chase Bank and I interviewed for the training manager's position. I thought because of my experience and my resume, I had it in the bag. I said, how could they possibly not take somebody like me? Well, they didn't take somebody like me. I didn't get the job. And it was about several months later when I had a connection with an insider and she said, you know why you didn't get that job? I said, no, and I'm still angry about it. She said, well, you were clearly the best, most qualified person. But they didn't hire you because you didn't smile when you passed them in the hallways. Oh my God. And that's exactly what, Josh, I would tell everybody I'm a positive person, but yet I was so wrapped up in my own thoughts that I was oblivious to other people and I walked right past them, and that cost me a job. It was a painful lesson to learn, but I still have to work at it. I don't know if anybody else would like to respond to this. I don't naturally schmooze with people. If I'm going to be a Mr. Shmooze, I got to be real intentional about it, and I've got to work at it. I don't know about the rest of you.
Pat, something you just said, you didn't smile. If it was COVID, you probably would have had the job because you would have had a mask. They wouldn't have known.
Oh, that was like 10 years ago, maybe. That was a long time ago.
There's 3 things that I want to bring up here real quick. One is the concept of smiling. So I was a cop in the Air Force when I first started, and I just thought, being a cop, I was always, very sour and dour, and nobody. I didn't want anybody around me, and I was very successful at that because I didn't smile. And my wife at the time, people came up to her all the time. They always wanted to talk to her, and I'm like, why do people want to talk to her and they don't want to talk to me? And I realized that I don't smile. And I started to smile, and suddenly everything in my life changed. And I literally went from being graded on the Myers-Briggs from an INTJ to an ENTJ repeatedly. And I've taken the Myers-Briggs probably about 30 times, more than humanly possible. The second thing is this term toxic positivity started to come out last year because of COVID. And it really started to bother me because I work with a lot of organizations where people who are positive are kind of put in the corner, like, we don't want your positivity, misery loves company, right? And there's this toxic negativity in life. So I wrote an article for Forbes on this concept because it was so concerned about this emphasis of everybody getting on the bandwagon about people who were positive. There was even a hairstylist in England that had put out an ad that they wanted happy employees, and the company that hosts the ads told them to take it down because they were discriminating against unhappy people. Unbelievable. Now there's a guy named Jai Jang, and he did this thing. He's got a TED Talk out there. Check it out. He's got his own program. It's called 100 Days of Rejection. And where David was talking about, maybe celebrating your nose, what Jai Jang did is he went out and he purposely, for 100 days, asked something that somebody would absolutely say no to so that he could get used to the rejection. And what happened was people started saying yes to these incredibly insane things because his attitude towards rejection changed. Super powerful stuff. So I just wanted to throw in those little tidbits, not in the book, but thought you might enjoy.
Hey, John, I'd like to add, it's not illegal to discriminate against unhappy people.
Because it's not a protected class.
It's not.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
I've taken a number of sales courses over the years, and it's not my forte per se, but one of the things that is brought up pretty frequently is the fact that, we are all in sales every single day. We are selling our spouses, we are selling our kids, we are selling our coworkers, we are selling people when we are out doing various things. It is not tied just to being a salesperson. We are always trying to figure out how to have a good relationship with other people and encourage them to do the things we are interested in or whatever. So these opportunities that we have through this kind of book and building those relationships really is extremely powerful on every avenue of our lives.
Yeah, and to add to what you just said, Peter, I'll be reviewing The Catalyst, which is how to change people's minds, anyone's mind. And, it's not just about selling, but, we're always talking with, communicating with, dealing with coworkers, family members, friends. And it's not about manipulating them. It's about really getting to know them and what's important to them and learning their perspectives first. And that's what the book is all about. But that'll be for everybody else, that'll be 3 weeks from today. Fourth Friday, we'll be reviewing The Catalyst. It looks like it goes hand in hand with Mr. Shmooze.
And that one's not on the website yet, right? But it should be coming out here soon, right, Malcolm?
Yeah. Yep.
I think it just went up yesterday.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I see it on there right now.
Awesome. Denise is signing up. She's like, sign me up.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this to a formal close. We can stay on for those that want for a few more minutes, but for those of you who have other places to go, thank you for joining us for First Friday, February. And John, thank you so much for a great presentation. Thank you to everyone who attended. We had 39 people today, which was awesome. Really good for a Friday morning. And we hope you have a great and wonderful day. We'll stay around for about 10 more minutes for anyone who wants to hang around. Otherwise, have an awesome day.